This is a qualitative case study explore how Malay students use language and construct their multilingual identities in the inter-ethnic educational setting of a Chinese primary school (CKC). With more Malay families opting for Chinese schools, students navigate multiple languages: Malay, Mandarin, English, or dialects across home, school, and peer interactions. Research has found that this phenomenon is mainly due to the following three factors. The first, family education decision-making tendency. Second, competitive advantage of Chinese. Third, interactive influence of multilingual environment. Strong inclusiveness. This study primarily explores three research objectives. Research objectives 1. Systematically analyze the types of language students use in different contexts: home, school, society. 2. Explore students' self-awareness and attitudes towards their multilingual identity. 3. Understand the strategies students use to coordinate their multilingual identity in different contexts. The study investigates how these students experience identity change and negotiation while learning Chinese. It addresses three research questions. 1. What languages do students use in different contexts? 2. How do they perceive their multilingual identity? 3. How do they negotiate this identity across settings? This group is receiving increasing attention and has been covered by various news media.
Who would have thought a Chinese primary school in the outskirts of Selangor has more student body of Malay descent than the Chinese? SJKC Chunhua Batu 18 in Hulu Langat has 32 Malay pupils and only 2 of them are Chinese. Headmistress Jim B. Foon says Malay parents in Kampung Batu 18 and nearby villages believe that Chinese schools are stricter and can help their children achieve better.
Who am I?
This study uses Li Wei's translanguing theory as a framework. The idea is simple. Language isn't fixed. For multilingual people, using different languages is an open, flexible processing, what Li Wei calls a translanguing instinct. Instead of just switching languages, they move within a translanguing space, where personal thoughts and social situations come together and shape how language is used. Recent studies build on this idea. For example, Wang and colleagues found that students actively use translanguing to balance who they are with what's expected of them, especially when learning more than one language. Tu Hua and Li Wei also pointed out that translanguing isn't just about talking, it's about performing and expressing identity depending on the social settings. Most research so far has focused on Malaysian Chinese college students or middle school students, and mainly focused on the self-identity construction of individuals in a multilingual context. But there's much less research on students from minority groups, like Malay children in Chinese primary schools, who have to juggle multiple languages and identities, especially when the school's main language isn't their home language. Some research does exist. Norishid and McClellan found that Malay people living in the UK can be both English and Malay speakers at the same time, without losing one identity for the other. Others, like Suyaki and Ho and colleagues, we looked at how language policies and school systems shape identity for Malaysian Chinese students from high schools and colleges. So, Malay students in Chinese primary schools are a great example of how multilinguals use their translanguing instincts. This study, therefore, focuses on Malay students attending Chinese primary schools. As typical translanguing instinct group, they constantly shift between a Chinese-speaking school environment and a Malaysian-speaking home or social setting. They demonstrate high linguistic adaptability and actively negotiate multiple identities in different contexts. Their translanguing practices offer riches, real-world cases that reflect the complexity and fluidity of multilingual identity construction.
Based on this phenomenon, we can conduct a case study. We can conduct a cross-ethnical study focusing on Malay students in a Chinese public primary school in Kuala Lumpur to examine how they negotiate their multilingual identities in this cross-ethnical context. Here, multilingual identity refers to children speaking different languages and constructing different selves through language. We chose this as a case study not only because many Malay parents are currently sending their children to Chinese primary schools for multilingual education, but also because Kuala Lumpur is a typical multilingual and multi-ethnic region, making it representative and typical for studying multilingual identity. Additionally, this research method is well suited for case studies, as it allows for in-depth exploration of individuals and can be extrapolated from the individual to the whole. Although we selected only a small number of Malay students as participants, they do not represent a specific student group, but rather a representative group striving to construct a multilingual identity in a multilingual environment. Through in-depth analysis and research on them, we can gain insights into the critical role of language in identity, negotiation, and social positioning. We chose a public Chinese language primary school in the Kuala Lumpur area that admits Malay students as our research site, and we'll chose 3 boys and 3 girls from a grade 6 class as our research sample. This specific group will be chosen because Malay students entering an education environment where Chinese is the primary language are more likely to face pressure related to self-identity. Their language choices and identity formation require balancing between academic integration and their cultural background, making them more prone to encountering significant identity conflicts and negotiations. Additionally, since they have been exposed to Chinese for 6 years, but primarily in a school setting, their experience offers a more pure observation of how Chinese influences their identity negotiations. Their age also provides sufficient expressive capacity to articulate their thoughts. Studying this group can reflect the broader student population they represent, including non-Chinese students learning Chinese. The research findings can assist teachers in improving their teaching methods and balancing students' identity recognition, thereby enhancing the practical significance of the study.
To collect our data, we use 3 tools: language portraits, semi-structured interviews, and observation. There are 3 stages in the data collection procedure. Step 1. We begin with a My Language Story classroom activity, along with some associated vocabulary building and group discussions. Step 2. We move into a draw and talk activity, including one-on-one interview and a fun language portraying task. Step 3. We observe each student in and beyond the classroom, from lessons to real-life settings like home and community. These observations allow us to triangulate data across contexts, adding depth and reliability to our findings. Each stage will be demonstrated through real-life sense to vividly showcase what we actually do. Activity 1. My Language Story. Our journey begins a My Language Story classroom activity. Through storytelling, associated vocabulary support, and friendly group discussion, we guide the student to think about the different language in their lives and help them connect language with identity, not just who they are, but what language made them who they are. Activity 2. Draw and Talk. Next, we invite each student for a one-on-one interview, starting with a fun language portrait task, when each student colors a body silhouette to show the languages they speak. We talk with them about these 3 aspects. First, how they distribute their language at home, in school, and their community, to answer RQ1. Second, how they place their language in the portraits and express their preferences and sense of belonging, to answer RQ2. Third, how and why they select, switch, or mix languages in different situations, to answer RQ3. Activity 3. Observations.
Finally, we observe each student at home, at school, and in the community on 3 separate days over the next month to see how they select, switch, or mix languages in real-life situations.
We are the researchers of this case study. Thank you very much for your watching and listening. Actually, language is not merely a tool. It can reflect the multilingual identity.
This study does not merely listen to Malay children say, but also seek to understand the struggles and negotiations behind their multilingual identity. So we are striving to understand how they become themselves.
Their linguistic negotiations reflect a mirror image of this multilingual society.
Supporting this research means supporting the future of these children and the future of multilingualism and social development.
Thank you again.